Welcome to Eternal Journey, the podcast.
Greetings to all my knights and punta ones out there. You are listening to Eternal Journey, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus on limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and this is episode 93 of the podcast, where we are going to be saying goodbye to a near and dear friend, Argent Depths. That's right, it's the Argent Depths Sunset Show. Long time coming, but we still want to give it its due respects as it kept us cozy and comfortable for the majority of 2020. But first things first, I want to welcome my good friends on the show, starting off with John Holio. How you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty hyped out about this new set, and happy to see Argent Depths go, I guess. I mean, you know, it's like a send-off to a dear friend, like you said.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely was a fun format, its various iterations. Sitting across from us on the internet is Darth_Herman2. What's up, hon?
Hey, guys. Happy to be here celebrating the death of Set 9. It's been a long time coming.
All right, with that, a couple of more announcements real quick. You can catch us streaming live every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday at twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ. And if you can't catch us live, feel free to check out the YouTube Eternal Journey on there, and you can catch the video version of the show as well as various draft videos, including the first one from the new set that I posted up. It was a lot of fun. Definitely enjoying the new set like a lot of people, but we will talk about that in our set review next week. And then finally, some shout outs. People that have showed some various love to the channel, as well as new members to the Jedi Order. Scarlet Harlot with a 3-month, Nitro Turtle 3-month, Ulrich, Fast Cookie, Sizzle Steam, Marvin the Imp, Twitch Dope, Sandy Fur, Magic Rabbit FR, Wiznerd, Pook 85 with a 9-month, Alabazoo coming in with the prime time, Taylor Cheney, aka John Avon, for 6 months. Who does that for 3 months? Akuma CB, welcome. And then some ongoing appreciation to some of our biggest contributors out there: Chastity Weaver, Extinction, and Mercurial Blue. Thank you guys so much. And then Alex, geez, man, every time I see you and John sub to me, it's crazy. You guys are up there like 15, 16 months. I'm like, what the heck? It's crazy you guys have put up with me for that long.
I'm Plasma.
But all right, guys, that's going to do it. So let's crack our final pack for Argent Depths. That's right. Our pack one, pick one, last one, sending it off. And this is a doozy. So let's go through it. Flameheart Patroller is the 1/3 Sentinel for 2 fire, surge, +2 attack this turn. Nightwatch Broadsword, +4/+3 relic weapon for 5 justice. When one of your units dies, gain 1 armor. Forget the 1-time fast spell with Revenge, silence an enemy unit. Frost, the 2 primal fast spell with Revenge, stun an enemy unit. Beseech the Throne, 2 factionless, draw a card, then plunder at slow speed. Prize Sow is the 1/1 pig for 1 shadow. When one of your units dies, you gain 1 shadow influence and 1 health. Cheerful Shepherd is a 0/1 explorer for 2 primal, summon, play a 1/1 or 1/2 beast. Fire Symbol is depleted power for gain double fire influence. And then at the uncommons, we have a Greenstone Officer is the 2/2 paladin for 2 triple justice, lifesteal, and imbue. Pay 2 and exhaust Greenstone Officer to imbue her with one of your units if she's not already imbued. Huru Vow, which is a power, you may discard a primal or justice sigil from your deck to gain an influence of that type and take 1 damage. Sage of Sands is a 5/5 mystic for 5 time summon. You may give another unit endurance and overwhelm this turn. And finally, at the rare rounding off the pack, we have the +7/+7 massive late sword relic weapon for 7 justice. Massive late sword can't be. Yeah, I had it in the last 2 times I drafted it. The card is so powerful, right? It almost automatically gives you a 2-for-1, maybe even a 3-for-1. But every time I drew it in the last game, it was so late in the game it didn't do anything. So yeah, I audibled it to massive, or edited it to a massive late sword, because it always shows up late, and my opponents always get it on turn 7. Massive greatsword can't killed except by reaching 0 armor. So it has to be removed by damage. The straight up things that say destroy a relic or relic weapon does not work against Massive Greatsword. All right, let's send it over to you, Alex. What are you looking at in this pack?
Well, some pretty defensible first picks here, particularly in that top row. The late sword is pretty good. It's a good weapon, good relic weapon. Sage of Sands is a great unit, 5/5 for 5. But believe it or not, I think I'm leaning towards the Greenstone Officer. Just was solid and true the whole format for me. Yeah, there's no commons. I mean, the whole bottom row, they're all playable, but I wouldn't really want to first pick any of them. So yeah, I'm on the Greenstone Officer, and I could be wrong, but that's what I would pick.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. All right, send it over to you, John.
It's hard to say because I think how many did we have? 4 different iterations. Like in 3 of the 4, I would take the Greenstone Officer, I think, and like one of them I would have taken the Greatsword. But yeah, it's same as exactly what Alex said. I was like, is he gonna say Officer? And he does. Yeah, Greenstone Officer. I mean, that card overperformed every time for me, and I'd be happy to first pick it here over the Greatsword. It's like in any given game, you draw one of those cards, the chances that you get to play the Officer, I feel like are just much higher, and that it impacts the game than the Greatsword just because of the cost.
There is worth mentioning that the triple justice from Greenstone Officer does put a slight hindrance on it for sure. But yeah, go figure there. Final pack one, pick one. I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm right there with you guys. I love Greenstone Officer. I think that card overperformed every single time. It saved me a couple of games. It steamrolled my opponent a couple of games. You can draw it late. You can draw it early. It does things. Yeah, that card is great. So I would have slammed that here as well.
Yeah, just BFFs with the 2, outstanding Justice commons in the format.
Yep, Caravan Guard and Siphoner Paladin, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, it was one of the few things, if I think only, that can just like pick new imbue targets if if it lost its original.
I would sometimes run it out on 2, just if I had like turn 1 Justice symbol and this, and I had like 2 or 3 in my deck, I would be like, yeah, here's my Lifesteal 2-drop. What's up?
Yep.
Yeah, right there with you guys. It's tough too because Sage of Sands is a very solid first pick as well. Probably the most flexible out of all the 3 of them, but Greenstone is just so high payoff. Like, all right. Oh, and like I said, I totally didn't do that on purpose, but it worked out. That ended up being the pack one, pick one, our final one for the set. I think it's quite appropriate. But all right, guys. With that, let's go ahead and get this closing ceremony out of the way. I'm gonna miss this set. I think it was a lot of fun, all the iterations of it. It went long, of course, and I think that's the biggest reason why it got a stale taste in everyone's mouth, is just the fact that we drafted it for so long. But it is what it is. So let's go ahead and start it off with, if you could summarize the set in one sentence, what would it be? And mine is, it's a Siphoner Paladin's world. We are just living in it. That card was great in every iteration of the format. You did mention that, John, that we did see various iterations and cards fluctuated based on that. We definitely did see that, but I think you were always happy to take a Siphoner Paladin. It made the curves for your opponent awkward sometimes when you were on the play and got to play that weapon and they had no way of getting it off the board. Now they're like, okay, do I run my 3-drop into it or do I not? And it's a great blocker. It was great with imbue. It just did so many things. I think Paladin was always a solid linchpin of this format. Alex.
For me, let's see, it was some single faction decks are not only doable but good if you have the payoffs. So it was like the first set really that you were able, I mean, in my experience with this game, that you were able to draft a mono faction deck that actually had some nice payoffs, mono red specifically. And yeah, that made it a pretty interesting format. As much flack as I'm giving it for it having gone stale, it was a very fun format.
John?
Yeah, and my sentence would be: looks like Huru is open, because it always seemed to be open for me. You know, I know I've heard you say the same thing plenty of times, Jedi. And man, did I have you know, some fun with that deck, and it had a good win rate for me as well. So I was happy for it to be open every time.
Yeah, it was like the running meme of the stream, but I wasn't forcing it. It was just always open, and it was strange because even when it felt like every drafter knew that Huru was one of the strongest factions, it was still open. You know, I'd be like, okay, we're not gonna take a justice card, we're not gonna take a primal card, and it's just like, all right, guys, like it's pretty much just being handed to us. I'm not gonna, train wreck this draft just because. I know Tyler Chaney did it a handful of times, but yeah, Huru was definitely open and strong for sure. I just don't know if the colors were very deep. Like obviously Justice was. I don't know if Primal just wasn't. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm right there with you. All right. Question number 2. What turned out to be the best archetypes? Well, Huru, like we just mentioned, was one of my strongest archetypes. I think that just overperformed for me more often than not. A lot of it was on the back of Greenstone Officer and things like Valiant Leap. Wait, what would I used to call it? What
Mighty
do you
Leap
remember? What
is your
Mighty
name.
Leap? There, yeah. I used to call it Mighty Leap. Shout out to Extinction, absolutely loving me for mispronouncing, miswording things like envelope. So yeah, that card just did so much work. And then I love how you unmute yourself to laugh, Alex. Thank you for that. I
No,
appreciate it.
I've been unmuted the whole time.
No,
He does do
I
that,
think it's
though.
great. I think it's great. Please, I don't mind. Hearing you guys laugh always makes me happy. And then Mono Fire, like you believe it or not, Mono, much like what Alex said, Corrosive Dagger just did so much in this format, as well as giving you access to running a 5/5 for 3 in the form of Prism Golem. And then obviously it had Might Weaver and Battle Driver. So there was so much fuel in Mono Fire where you could just push damage again and again. Didn't have to worry about those heavy influence cards like some of the other 2-color and 3-color decks needed to do. Yeah, it was just great. Mono Fire was solid. Hero was solid for me. Sending it over to you, John.
Yes, for me, I would say the best archetypes rotated with the curated packs, which I thought was really neat. Like it felt like the rotations were kind of meaningful and really switched it up for me. So I think they're getting better at that. And I would say Justice and Whatever and Heavy or Mono Fire were consistently good in all of the uh, rotations because of the Argent Depths commons. So I guess I agree with you for the most part.
All right. And then Alex, what do you think? What was the best archetype for you?
So for me, I mean, I agree with what both of you guys said. And I don't know if these were the best, but they really felt like the best when you had a good version of it, and it was the 5+ power unit deck. So like the Stone Scar deck that had both the Might Weavers and the Shadow guy. That gives a
Vorpal Cutter?
no
Spirit
the
Weaver?
No.
that plunders when it enters, and you
Spirit
it gives
Weaver.
lifesteal. Spirit Weaver. So Might Weaver.
Spirit. Okay.
Yeah, Spirit. And when it's Might Weaver and Spirit Weaver, is that the names of them?
Yeah,
Yes.
the Weaver twins.
The Weaver twins. If you can get the Weaver twins in a deck, and even just a couple units that are going off on them, that was a really powerful deck. And then the 5+ spells matters deck. That deck had quite a few of very significant payoffs, and if you had it going, it was like pretty hard to beat. So those decks were, I think, the most powerful when you had a good version of it.
Okay.
Yeah, another thing that really felt powerful was just picking up those Arcanum batteries, right? The 6/6 that technically is for 8, but really wasn't, and just making more 5/4s. Oh, it just, yeah, that plus that 5-cost spell deck, it just really impressed me sometimes, and it's something that I didn't want to do because I was like, man, how much expensive stuff can you have in your deck? But it really paid you off with some value, for sure. Making a bunch of rustlings, getting additional like bonuses, turning your 2/1s into 5/5s and 6/6s. Like, oh gosh,
Throwing around 3 damage with the 0/3. Chandra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, running the rare. Yeah,
That was
I think I actually played her in the deck one time. I think every other time I ended up not taking her. But yeah, I mean, you can easily run her too because she had plunder, so you weren't punished necessarily for taking a linchpin rare. Like, she actually did things. So yeah, I could believe that. Which cards were you most wrong about during the set reviews? Which cards really surprised you one way or the other? So this one was a little hard for me because it had been such a long time since we'd done the set review, and we had so many various iterations of the format that it makes it a little bit hard to be wrong about a card because things fluctuate. So sometimes we were right at the beginning and then wrong at the end, and sometimes vice versa. Or maybe there's one format variation of it where it was good or not good. But the two cards that I came around on for sure that I can remember, and I don't remember my ratings on it. One of them was Overheating Mini Bot. That card for sure I know I was low on because I felt like you were just running out a card to lose to. But the fact that you can combo it with Imbue actually really made this card significantly better for me, including a card in fire in the form of the what's it called? The Relentless Barbarian, Reckless Barbarian. Where is it now? Let me look it up real quick. Where are you? Slag Fury Berserker. Mm-hmm. That, drop the mini bot on 2 and then attack because your opponent's like, I'm going to play a 3-4 next turn and be able to block it. So they let it through, and then you play Slag Fury, and now you have a 4-3 Berserker on turn 3. It was really powerful. Sometimes the other part to it is that sometimes you could get him for damage, and then when you couldn't and you knew it was going to die, you could just sacrifice it to ramp you a turn for that additional +1 to power that turn and then ramp out a little bit. So I think the unit had more play to it than I initially anticipated. So I could say I was wrong about that card. I don't think it's a windmill slam, but it's definitely better than I thought it was. And then the I just said it, what was it? The 4-1. Oh gosh, Redmask Warrior. I was worried about the 1 health, right? Because it just trades down so often on in the aggressive format, but the ultimate it would come into play every once in a while. The additional influence definitely triggered surge and whatnot, and we did have Flame Blast, right? Is that the one that deals damage equal to your influence? That was in the format at some point. It combos really well with Dagger, giving you at least 1 more, sometimes 2 more Grenadins. But the biggest thing to this card was just the decay. The decay on 4 attack made it very difficult for your opponent to consider blocking it when they just had decent sized units. And then on defense, it was just absolutely great because they can attack their 7/7 to it, and you could chump block, but now their 7/7 is going to be a 3/3 at the end of combat. So I think that card definitely impressed me more than I thought it was initially going to, looking at it theoretically. What about you, John?
Yeah, I agree with both of those, except I went back. I actually pulled out the spreadsheet just to first, I didn't want it to just be what I thought in my head. I wanted to make sure, right? Those ones I was actually a little higher on than I remembered being so the discrepancy wasn't as big for me on those. For me, I think 2 things I rated D's, which I would rate quite, a full letter grade, maybe higher, maybe a little more now. The Trail Torch Cinderpaw and the Seed of Creation. I think those cards, every time, I was reluctant to put them in my decks, but you guys talked about the 5-cost spell deck, and Seed of Creation's a great 5-cost spell in the format. And then Trail Torch Cinderpaw, when I would put that in some of my aggressive decks and stuff, it would just overperform every time. So I just came up on that card as well. So yeah, those were my 2. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, that's funny. I also went back to the spreadsheet, and both of these cards were D's. One of them was the Seed of Creation. And then also Valley of the Ancients. Just thought it was too slow. And, it is kind of slow, the 5-4 for 5. And then, it enters the battlefield, exhausted or whatever. But when you're getting some other triggers because it's a 5-cost spell that's giving you a unit. So I was wrong on those cards. At least 1 letter grade better as well.
Yeah, that's it. Seed of Creation definitely, I think, was the one that we all kind of slept on a little bit. And yeah, once again, victim of circumstance and the way the format played out. But I think you're right. That card definitely was a lot better than we all anticipated, because I think it was kind of like we were all, hey, you're taking your turn 5 off to draw a random card and a power, but it did work. The card actually did work. Cinderpaw, I think I'm still kind of about where I was on it, maybe a little bit higher, maybe, but because the aggressive decks did get some value off of it, and then obviously Might Weaver being in the format, but I still think I'm correct. I still feel like that card performed about where I wanted it to, or underperformed when I did play it. But I mean, I definitely was impressed. It's killed me plenty of times in this format. Let's see. What were the most underrated cards? Forget and Imprison. Imprison, we've always had issues with cards that let your opponent make a decision for you on the show, right? Because they're always going to make what benefits them the most and you the least. But the 2 things that turn this card around, actually 3 things, I guess. A, the 6 cost on the spell, because we already talked about the fact that synergizes very well with various archetypes in this format. B, the influence that it's gained at fast speed can trigger surges at fast speed, which makes a difference and could essentially be a combat trick as well. But the fast speed is what really made this card pay off, because you can do it at the end of your opponent's turn. You can do it in the middle of combat, and it really changes combat math. And so this card, I think I definitely underrated. It's blown me out a couple times. You know, your opponent makes some double blocks thinking that they're going to make some profitable trades. Then you force them to sack 2 units, and now it makes things very awkward for them. Yeah, this card definitely performed better than I thought. And then Forget, just that fast speed allowed you to get a card's worth of value off of it. There were a lot of units. It would shut down flying. It would shut down decay. I think those were the biggest things that really helped kind of make this card work, was just the fact that it was very easy for you to get a card of value off of it. So you didn't mind having it in your deck. It did more work than I thought, for sure. I was happy to have Forget. And a lot of times it just paid off so well, where I was like, oh God, I really want to draw that Forget. I really want to draw that Forget. So yeah, those were the 2 cards that I underrated that I think definitely, yeah, just plain and simple, I underrated them. Alex, what do you think?
For me, it was like hard to think of anything really, but Hearty Warrior, I guess that unit did some work for me as far as holding down the ground while I was dirtling about trying to get my end game going. And you could always get them really late, and as many of those as you wanted. So Hearty Warrior.
Yep. Yeah, I could see that. How about you, John?
Yeah, for me, like, most underrated, I think, by the community. I think I kept getting past Reality Snap, so I guess, and that's really high for me. So I think that one was probably really underrated in my opinion. It says Wasteland Broker as well, but I don't even remember writing that. Or when you guys pranking me?
I wasn't broking. I broking you. I wasn't pranking you. Was that you, Alex?
No, I wasn't wasting you, bro.
I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking there. Maybe I was pranking myself.
Yeah, I was Wasteland Broker. Like, all right.
Like,
I thought we were high on that,
great
but
card. Like, no,
Yeah.
maybe I was thinking the community rates that low, but I don't know. Maybe I was just getting passed a bunch during some bot packs one week.
Like the bots definitely low of that card.
Maybe I think that's a card that was like utilized improperly a lot of times, but I don't know that it was unrated. I did get randomly past a Wasteland Broker. Like, I think if you ever get past a Wasteland Broker, I think that's maybe what I was thinking. Like I had times just throughout the format where even pick 2, I think, would be wrong, right? Like, what uncommon would you guys ever take an uncommon over a Wasteland Broker?
No, Wasteland at the baseline of Broker. If we took away the market aspect to it, it's still a 4/4 for 4 that you could put in every single deck. So there's absolutely no reason not to take away Wasteland Broker.
So ever. I think that's why I put that there. Actually, I guess some people must underrate that card, right? If they're passing it ever.
Yeah.
Maybe. They probably just misclicked, or their cat walked over the phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy one. Yeah. I'm with you on Snap. I love Snap. One of my favorite cards of the set. Okay, what were the most controversial cards? All right, well, to surprise of absolutely no one, Valleywack Sage. Valley Clan Sage was a card, thanks to Shab, that started to get on the map and people started to value it. And I could see the value of it as a 0-5 that does a ton of blocking in this format. But I never jumped on the train to the pay for to mill the top card of your deck. And just for the people listening that don't realize I'm trolling them, pay for to draw the top card of your deck if it's a spell. Otherwise, discard it. So here's the thing, right? So essentially, you play this in like a Feln deck, and then you mill, and you start. Even if you put units into your void, you have False Demise, which this will not mill. You'll draw it, and then you can play False Demise to get that card back. Yada yada yada. The only time this thing was correct for me was when my opponent had a flying bomb that I couldn't deal with, except drawing my removal spell. So activating this every turn to get to my removal spell was correct. The majority of the time, I am going to mill power that I wouldn't mind playing. Sometimes it did, right? Sometimes mill power when I was flooding, and that's fine. But it's going to mill units that I'm going to use at some point to win the game. And milling units, including my best unit, is extremely frustrating. So I never jumped on that train. So that was the big controversial card. Towering Arachnid, I just never liked it. I was never happy playing that card. The 5/2 in Shadow for 2 that plunders, but you have to sack a unit. Sometimes you sack itself, sometimes you sack a 1-drop, but then you're playing a 1-drop. Yes, it's 5 attacks, so that makes a difference, but I was just never impressed with that card. I just never really did what I wanted to do. I played it reluctantly when I did play it, and it never impressed me. And then finally, Furno. Furno was the rare that I think a lot of people were high on, me included, because of the ways you can trigger Surge and whatnot to make it deal some decent damage. But the card never really overperformed for me or on my opponent's side. I think I lost to it one time, and I was kind of already losing the game. So the 3/3 for 4. The problem is it's 5 fire influence. So you really need to be mono fire or close to it to play this guy. And you want to trigger him trigger Surge about 3 times after you play him. So at least when he attacks, you get a free torch out of it. And then maybe he'll be able to attack. But the 3 health on him just made it to where he didn't attack multiple times very often, unless you had the support for it. So I think that was a card that people were very high on, but I ended up passing several times. What about you, John?
Yeah, I agree completely with the old knick-knack Valleywack was what I called him. Like, I think anytime I played him on purpose, I would be facing like red decks running decay units, like the 4-1 you mentioned earlier, and then just daggered up anything, and I was just having a bad time, trying to do anything. Like, anyway, yeah, so I think that one was controversial as well. And then I also thought Blurhaze Worm was pretty overrated by a lot of people. Like, it was like occasionally, you could have a deck where it'd be like kind of good, but like even in those decks, you couldn't really count it as a unit, right? So I think a lot of people just thought it was just a great card and would just jam it and like didn't actually think about their unit count, when they were doing deck construction, and would kind of get run over. And so I think they were getting kind of preyed upon as a result. Anyone playing a 1/1 for 4 is having a pretty bad time if they're chump blocking with it. So yeah, I think those two were kind of controversial as far as ratings.
And for me, Beseech the Throne. It's a card that definitely has some purposes and some use in some decks, but I think a lot of players would just put it in their deck and just start spinning their wheels and just get ran over by the units that I'm playing. So I don't know. It definitely has some purpose and like more factions. The more factions you have in your deck, the more useful it is. I don't think you need it in a 2-color deck. But a lot of people like it. So I guess the controversy might just be with me, but yeah, I think that card is way overrated.
No, I'm with you on it. I was off of it initially. I think we all were in the podcast. I got to double check in the set review. And then I wasn't taking it, and then everyone thought it was the bee's knees, so I started to try it, and I was just never. It gives you a little more consistency in your deck, a little more, but I just don't think it was worth a card. So I ended up cutting it as well. I'm with you on that. John, where did you finish off on Beseech the Throne?
Yeah, it's just the only time I would play it on purpose, I think, was when I was lacking in fixing and I was like forcing some bombs, with otherwise not enough fixing. So for me, it would only be like necessary evil. So I agree.
Next up, what card had your favorite artwork? Mine, ironically, were two primal cards. One awesome, one Terabad. Reflection, I think everyone agrees. Just that fantastic Bob Ross landscape with all the happy little trees and stuff. Absolutely looks great. The reflection in the lake. And the premium is super pretty. The other one for me was to surprise, well, I guess maybe, the Valiant Leap. I don't know, it's just super cool. Like, you have the ninja pouncing off of this giant snow explosion, and the premium looks super cool because they highlight it the right way. So those are probably two of my favorite pieces of artwork in the set. Let's send it over to you, Alex. What about you?
So I like Bhutan, and then it's legendary. Unfortunately, that was not very playable. And then Reflection. I mean, yeah, like you said, Bob Ross, just a great card. He stole that one from me. But we could both say it, right? We could both like it.
Yeah, it makes us both happy and reflect on this format.
Well done.
That was the best use of reflection the entire time of Argent Depths.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not yet. Well,
the only time you ever got anyone.
Yeah, I think 3 of my opponents played it against me, and one of them went deep on reflection, like multiple reflections, because they were the spells matter. Wait, was it spells matters or was it draw a card? It wasn't draw a second card, right? It was spells matter. I think they were spells matters deck. So they were, yeah, because they were running like Gale Prowler and things like that. Yeah, no, they did some things. Their deck went deep on reflection and all kinds of great little cheap cost cantrips, and I still beat them. Anywho, John.
Yeah, I would third the art on reflection though, with you guys, and then nomination also for the premium Sage of Sands. I think that one's really dope as well. But my favorite has got to be the premium Beseech the Throne. It's just really clean.
Let me go look it up real quick. Actually, now, let me click the premium one real quick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is smooth. I like that.
I think that.
Yeah, it's got like, it kind of has the almost like it's beneath underwater, right? The kind of the aurora. I know it's not aurora borealis, but the not translucent. Is it? Iridescence. There you go. The iridescence kind of aspect to it. All right, I can get behind that. I like it.
Yeah.
What were the best build around cards in the set? All right. Corrosive Dagger, Rust Machines, kind of the go wide rustling thing with Battle Driver was kind of one of my favorite go-tos, right? Just building a bunch of 1/1 rustlings that couldn't be blocked easily. They could chump block very well if they needed to, and then dropping the Battle Driver, just start making 7/1, 6/1s with Overwhelm and smashing in. That was kind of my favorite little like build around type thing. But I guess solo cards, I threw up Mightweaver. I feel like Mightweaver was probably a build around card as well, because you started to prioritize anything that had 5 attack on it, and that made Rampage significantly better as well. Turning a lonely 2/2 into 10 overwhelm damage felt really good out of nowhere. But I think Mightweaver, it should consider a build around as well, because it definitely put what's the 5/3 overwhelm now? The Brawler. What is it? Sand Brawler? Fire Brawler? What is it called now? They put that thing on the map for sure.
Is it that one?
Something Brawler. Anywho. All right, Alex, what about you, buddy?
So for me, the Weaver twins, trying to go for that approach, or the 5 cost spells matter payoffs. And then also just putting a battle driver in any deck, even if you're not designed to go super wide, it's just good with any other units. So I guess, just a good all-around first uncommon to pick and build around it by just drafting a normal deck. So good.
Yeah. True story.
Splashable. It's just a great card.
John?
So I said for a build-around card, I said inspiring leadership. Like I feel like to make that one actually work, you had to really build around it, and I had some 7-win decks with it, and I thought it was a fun card.
Yeah, no, very good call. I think inspiring leadership, and that's a milli on it, I believe, which is awesome. But yeah, that card definitely did some shenanigans. It definitely interacted very poorly with Imbue. Like it interacted well, but at the same time, it was kind of horrible.
The interface.
There you go. Yeah, so many people misclick that, all of a sudden turning your 3/5 into a 1/1, and you're like, no. So yeah, but inspired leadership, definitely a fun card. It was worth essentially taking your turn 3 off for the payoff, because everything you draw of that, turning your 2/2s and 1/1s into these giant units, definitely was a payoff. Nice call, good call. I like that one.
Thanks.
Was this a Prince or Pauper set? And I think it was pretty firmly in the Pauper set. There were some very strong rares, no doubt about it. Things that just made you groan. But so many powerful commons and uncommons. Justice had Caravan Guard, Cypher Paladin, right? There was the Weaver twins. There was the Battle Driver. There was Dagger. It just... Yeah, it just is. Reality Snap, Unbreakable Tradition, Emerald Crafter. There was just so many cards at the uncommon slot that were extremely powerful, where I think you could easily win games without having a rare or anything like that. So I put it firmly in the Pauper set. Alex, where are you at on this one?
I'm on Paupers as well. There were just so many, good commons to uncommons that it let you really battle through some of the bomb rares. So yeah, definitely Pauper for me.
John?
Yeah, I thought it kind of rotated one of the times. Like I think one of the formats I was like, maybe could be a Prince set or whatever, where I would warp my deck to play some like more rares, but I think all the other ones were just all about the commons.
I think the only way that you would even I felt slightly wanting to do that was from cycles, right? The transmute cards that required 3 of 2 different influences. I think those were kind of worth somewhat warping your deck a little bit for, but because they were all really powerful for sure. But yeah, I don't remember any rares that really wanted me to really cater around, I believe, at least off the top of my head. All right. The It's Bad card, but I love it anyways award for me goes to Armed and Dangerous. I tried so hard to make Land's Edge work. Land's Edge, the relic that all your imbue units at the end of your turn, your stun units get +2/+2. So essentially, you'd imbue a small guy or a decent guy, and it would get bigger as you go. And then whenever your opponent killed your imbue guy, you would have a really big other guy. But the fact of the matter is 90% of the time people just killed the unit that was imbued, because that was normally the better statted unit. So Land's Edge really just never, and then there wasn't a relic synergy. So yeah, I stopped drafting this thing pretty early on and made it a lot of cuts on it. A lot of cuts. By the way, I forgot about this card for the best artwork. It's probably up there with my favorite artwork as well, especially the premium one. But Armed and Dangerous, that card I saw a lot of people not very high on, not feeling like it did a lot. And sometimes I felt that way sometimes, but most of the time, especially when you had a Might Weaver in play, to where now all of a sudden you can add 10-12 points of double damage onto the board out of nowhere, was really impressive. It allowed your smaller units to trade up, especially with rustlings. Having a 4/4 rustling with decay was really strong. Putting out on flyers was really good. I was very impressed with Armed and Dangerous. I think a lot of people still cut it, and sometimes I felt like it was correct to cut, but I still ran it, and I was very happy with it most of the time. So that's my bad, but I love it anyways card. Alex, what about you?
So for me, it's Eager Deputy. Pretty not a thrilling or super exciting unit to put in your deck, but it kind of always seemed to make the cut, as a last unit to put in the deck. And yeah, not that horrible. I love that little unit.
All right, fair enough. And then let's send it over to you, John. What about you?
Yeah, I know. Like for me, it's reflection, right? It's terrible, right? But I love it because if I see it in my game, it means my opponent is playing it, and then I'm obviously winning.
I like how you phrase that. That's good.
Yeah, that's actually really good. I like that. Shoot, you might have just gotten the award for the best use of reflection in the set now. That's pretty good. I like that. I love the card, especially when my opponents play it.
Yes, sir.
I literally never win with it, but it always seems to beat me card. Yeah. I was gonna say Wandering Beholder to like troll you guys, but I don't think anyone's ever played Wandering Beholder, period. Literally, I don't think I've ever seen it in a game. So Stormprowler is the card that I thought was bad because it's a 0/0. Right? So if your opponent silences it, which there were rectifiers and forgets and other stuff in the format, it dies, right? You turn a silence into a removal spell and it's quad primal influence. But I'll tell you what, man, more often than not, this thing would just stick around in the board and I would just lose to not having a flyer big enough to block it. Oh gosh, it was, yeah, I lost this card quite a few times. And I think every time I ever played it, because I was like, okay, let me not be stubborn. Let me see the result. I have lost to it enough times. I'm going to play it. And I think every time I played it, it was either a 2/2 flyer or my opponent had the silence for it. And I was just like, lol. Want. All right, that's mine. Sending it over to you, John. What was your card that you never won with but always seemed to beat you?
Yeah, Steam Sprite. Like every time my opponents played that, it was like popping off, and like I only managed to draft a deck, kind of featuring it. I think twice, and both times it just kind of fell flat. Whether it was the influence or the board state or just wonk wonk. But I really wanted it to shoot him in the face. It always looks so cool.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I think the couple of times I managed to draft it, I was just not in Stones or Skycrag. And then every time I saw it on my opponent's side of the board, they were either turned it on immediately or one influence away. And I was like, oh gosh, this is bad. This is real bad. Alex, what about you, buddy?
So for me, it's a Badlands Survivalist.
Mm-hmm.
Just not a very good card, but my opponents always seem to like boost its power, kind of go off with it. They memeing off with the Badlands Survivalist, and that just tended to happen to me a few times.
Luckily, I had a couple of people go off with it for sure. Like they played it on turn 1, they put a weapon on it on turn 2, and then just start going to town. But the fact that it never pumped the unit's health, I think made it. I think most of those games I still managed to win, so it was very low impact. But I could see if they play a bunch of flyers, and you can't do anything about it or whatnot. What was my opponent played this, so now I must win or quit Eternal forever card. This one was tough because honestly, I mean, I guess we could chalk up Reflection is probably up there, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper. And I tried to think of what people actually played against me. And believe it or not, that one was Power Stone Compass. This is the 7-cost double primal relic. When one of your spells deals damage, draw a card. Surge, the next damaging spell you play this turn deals +1 damage. Somebody actually played this against me. I think they drew a card off of it. But yeah, I beat them. I just smashed them. That's my story. Alex, what about you?
For me, it's the Monk Innervator, the 1/1 plunder for 1. Just, it's very hard for me to want to play a 1/1, and that was not enough of a reason for me to, but it was enough for a lot of my opponents to play it. Yeah, I still do not think that is a good card.
Yeah. Yep. Every once in a while, you get a little bit of value off of it, ambushing a unit every once in a while. But yeah, I agree. Every time they played it, I was happy to see that on the other side of the board. All right, John, what about you?
I mean, I just said reflection. We're just picking on reflection here.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, no need to talk more about reflection. What was the biggest groan test, or in John's terms, oh my god, card? Well, once again, Arcanum Battery. That card it would come down early sometimes if they were in Praxis, and then you just knew they were going to get value. You don't run that. I mean, you're fine running that card as 6/6 for 4 or 5, but you know they have at least, especially in this format, if they're anything remotely close to Praxis, they have, Seed, they have Snap, they have Disappear. You're just, that card just is, if you don't have an answer to it, you're just going to lose one way or another. You can try to race it, but most of the time it's still going to catch up. So, yep, Arcanum Battery for me. John, what did you think for your groan test card?
Yeah, for me it was the Unforgiven. Like,
nice, yeah, yep.
Usually when that got played, it was ambushed into my attack, and it's like eats my best guy, and then mills my 2 other best guys, and I'm just sad and have no more ways to win the game. And there's a big old flying thing killing me now.
Yeah, very good call. You're right. Yep. That definitely got groans for me. By the way, the artwork on it is amazing. Yep, good call. Alex, what about you?
So for me, it's a Severin. Before the nerf, more when it cost 6, it was a big groan. But even at 7, it's kind of like, ugh, okay. Like, I thought I was coming back in this game, but no, you are not.
Nice, yeah. Yep. Good calls. A lot of groan test cards in this format for sure. Good call on that one. Ruining, constructed, and limited. What was the most frustrating bad card to lose to? What card will you not miss playing against? What card really annoyed the crap out of you? Mandrake Shambler for me. Like, that card is just bad to me. A 4/1 for 4. And then it can't block. Like, there's all kinds of bad about this card, but man, did it irritate the heck out of me when they managed to imbue it on something I couldn't block, and I wasn't in a position to race them. So that, they turned this guy into whatever, an 8/5, and they just kept smashing me. And then they managed, they gave it flying or something ridiculous from False Demise. Like, I'm just like, this card is bad, yet you're absolutely pounding my face in with it. Yeah. That card was so frustrating when I would lose to it. And then sometimes I was like, oh, I have enough life to just not block, and you don't have a blocker, so I get to swing in and race you. But yeah, I definitely lost to Shambler a handful of times, and gosh, did I face palm. Alex, what about you, buddy?
The Feral Mandrake. It's like the 2/2 for 3 time. I think it imbues.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it comes back from the void if you do something.
Transform a card. When you transform one or more cards, play Feral Mandrake from your void exhausted.
There you go. And it's like, it's hard to even get that to work in constructed decks. It's just, I don't think I put that in any of my decks at all. It's just
I literally never played it. So how'd you lose to it?
Well, it's like if you're losing to that, it's bad, right? Someone just had a deck that had enough other good cards in it, and they just threw a Mandrake Shambler in there, and I'm like, oh, I'm losing to the Shambler. Oh, I hate my life.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, and rounding this one off, John, where are you at with your most frustrating bad card to lose to?
Prize Sow, and I'm not talking about with the Severin Prize Sow. I mean, just like 2 or 3 Prize Sows, like, early and often, like getting up to ridiculous shadow, and then
Influence.
Midnight Hunt, like, they're wide on you with these dumb sows, and then one of them suddenly is like a 25 whatever. It's like, yeah.
they play one Ferox Infiltrator, the unblockable, and
No,
they
not
swing
even
and
that.
they
You're
just.
just wide on you, so it's like, well, I block these
Oh yeah,
ones, and they're like, haha, this one's a 20/20 or a 21.
So it doesn't matter which style gets through.
Oh god, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that's
and heaven
funny.
forbid there's like a Might Weaver involved or something stupid. Well, anyway, I answered all three of these questions to you. The one I won't miss playing against, Siege Train, you know, and also the one that really annoyed the crap out of me, Severin, right? Like those are the three.
Oh yeah, fair. Yeah. Oh gosh. Ah, man, that's so funny.
Yeah, priced out.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw Loco Pojo one time, like when I was spectating Alex, just do something exactly like I described, I think, to him too.
Yeah, I think he had the shadow up to like 20 something.
Yeah, I think he hit
Yeah.
the record in the format for anyone I saw.
Oh god, that's so
But
funny.
I had some
yeah.
random people do that exact kind of stuff to me as well.
Yeah, I mean he's a streamer, so obviously it makes sense. Like once they see it, you know, they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah." The oh gosh, the Sao, that's so funny. Yeah, every time you saw Sao in someone's deck, you were just like, "Okay, did they get the Severin or did they not?" Like, oh no. What was the bombiest bomb? What was the card you hope to open? Pack one, pick one in your sealed league or pack. Severin and the Unforgiven. Like I mean, I know it's a cop out, but Severin was easy to play in any deck because the influence requirement wasn't heavy, and we already talked about how like backbreaking of a card he was. And then the Unforgiven for exactly the same reasons John just said, for the blowout potential. Great card all around, easy to play, etc., etc. John, what about you?
Yeah, I think the most powerful draft card in the whole format was the pre-nerf version of Tell It. Like,
oh yes,
anytime
good
I
call.
open that, or oh my gosh, I would swap to Justice immediately. I don't care if it was pack 4. That card was just busted. You just like wither away your opponent's entire board just by like playing power. Like,
yep. Yeah, for those of you listeners, Tell It, the Iron Gate is a 5/5 soldier for 4 power with 5 justice influence, but Surge, your relic weapon gets +1/+1 permanently, and then this is the change. Your enemy units get a -1/-0. And it used to be permanent, now it's this turn. So that was the thing that John is talking about. So even if they had a 7/7, you could just keep whittling away its attack and just turn it into a really good blocker eventually. So yeah, I agree. Tell It, the pre-nerf was busted. Alex?
So for me, as much as these cards make me groan when my opponent plays them, I'm not afraid to pack one, pick one them by any means, and that's Siege Train and Severin.
Gibbon. Siege Train is Gibbon's custom design card. 6/4 engine for 4 fire, overwhelm, reckless, and then super cool mechanic, summon. You secretly choose Drifter, Piercing Shot, or Ember Fury Blade. Entomb, play a copy of that card for each time Siege Train has attacked. Yeah, both solid cards, a lot of fun. Siege Train was great if you had the ability to Might Weaver, back it up, and do other things like that for sure. Solid. What's the best common for each color? For me, all right, let's go. For fire, I went with Corrosive Dagger for all the things we just mentioned. Decay on any unit is solid. It works out better than you think, and then just giving you free chump blockers or other attackers on go wide is fantastic. Alex?
I'm on Corrosive Dagger as well.
John?
same.
Sweet. All right. Time. For me, I liked Apprentice Mage more. I think it just did a lot more things. But man, it's Ancient Machinist definitely. It just made block so difficult when you have 5 power up, and you're like, okay, is this going to be a 5/5 now, or is it still going to stay a 2/1? It forced you to use removal early on it, so it doesn't become a 6/6 with Reality Snap and disappear. So it's on the fence. I'm on the fence about it because Ancient Machinist was good in a specific deck versus Apprentice Mage was always good. But yeah, John?
I said disappear. It was like, hard removal in time. It was plentiful. I think that was the best common for me.
Fair. Good call. All right, Alex?
I was also on Disappear.
Nice. All right, fair. Good call. All right. Yeah, that was good. I think the only thing that put it slightly off for me was the fact that it had quad influence. But you're right.
I
It
think
was absolutely great.
I think
It
the
was,
the reason that like the mage and stuff didn't do it for me was because there was so much competition in the draft packs, right? Like
yeah.
the 2-1 Trailmaker guy and whatnot.
No, I think you're right. I think you guys make a really good argument. And Disappear did do a lot of work. Disappear was fantastic. So, yep, fair enough. Justice, Caravan Guard, and Siphoner Paladin. I mean, for just, yeah, it slowed aggro, it
Pick
blocked
one.
well, it imbued well. It's just amazing. Yep. If I had to pick one, I think I personally would lead towards Caravan Guard.
Okay.
I think I would do Caravan Guard. All right, John?
I'd say Siphoner Paladin. I think both do a similar thing. I think it's just like I think there's a limit to the Caravan Guards you want in your deck, but I don't think you would ever stop on Paladins. I would sky's the limit.
And I'm
All right.
typing your Paladin as well.
Okay, sweet. Primal. Spellbound Ursine. I put Valiant Leap on here as well, but Ursine, just Ursine. John?
I said Frost, and that's because I don't count Valiantly because it's like a Huru card.
Mhm.
So because of that, I'd say Frost because like I think Ursine was like a little more replaceable as I played the format. Even if I was like wanting an imbue unit, I think I'd rather go for like the 4-drop one or some other one. Like that was kind of a last ditch for me. So yeah, I think I went for Frost.
I was
Okay.
also on Frost. It was just the blue interaction that you had for cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked yours, guys. You guys have done way better with this one than I did. I like that one better as well. And then let's see, Shadow Vorpal Cutter.
Yeah, I was pretty medium by the end of the format on that card. Like I was going like it was a slow downward curve for the value on that card for me. So I said Grizzly Contest.
And then
Okay.
for me, yeah, this is the first one. I think we all are different. I pick Lurking Brute.
Cool.
If you can get like a few of those
Mhm.
and just run away with the game early, that's just why I like them. The potential to do that.
Yeah. No, fair. Yeah, I think that's a good call as well. Best. What's the best uncommon for each color? So Fire, Battle Driver with an asterisk for Might Weaver, but Might Weaver needed to build around a little bit versus Battle Driver just didn't. You could put in absolutely any deck and it would overperform because it was great. So Battle Driver for me.
I agree.
Alex?
Oh, sorry.
Yep, we're on the same sheet of music.
Sweet.
Yep.
Time. I'm on Reality Snap, but I think there's an honorable mention for a Leyline Tracer. That card was really good too, but just Snap. Snap is great. John.
I said Omen Scarworm.
Okay. All right. Did you? Why?
I think it just was the most powerful time uncommon. Like, I think those other ones, like the two you mentioned, I think are just fantastic as well. But I think Omen Scar is just like I think it's constructed power level. Like it's like a payoff card with like what's the thing that lets you cheat out cards? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. My bad. Yeah, I just think it's extremely powerful. Like, it could be a rare. It's like the only reason it's not is just it's so expensive.
The World Pyre, is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of. Sorry.
No, it's okay. And then,
all right, and then Alex.
I was on Reality Snap as well. Just great stuff. I like it.
All right. Justice, Greenstone Officer. Alex.
Greenstone Officer.
John.
Yeah, I love Greenstone Officer.
Sweet. Primal, Cloud Snake Mount. Just it gave you a power dump late game. Sometimes those removal made it awkward for your opponent to play, and then you had a big unit on the ground. You turn it into a big unit in the air. Yep. Cloud Snake Mount. Alex.
So yeah, your guys' picks were so good, but I went with Mobilization.
Yeah, that was a good one.
The value that you get for the 4 horses out of the transaction there, and they're great blockers, great gang blockers. I just really like that spell.
Yeah, that overperformed. This was really hard for me. I think I changed my answer multiple times between did I pick the Cloud Snake mount and Ancient Serpent was what I finally settled on. I just
Another
like I
great
don't know,
card.
like I think their power levels were so similar. They're both fantastic cards. Like I just I loved some of the things you could do with Ancient Serpent. Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
the things you could do with the mount were like you can kind of get that going with Greenstone Officer as well. Ancient Serpent, you get that spell back. That's like a more unique effect as far as like imbue versus that. So I don't know, went with that.
No, that's a solid pick as well. I like that card too. Yeah, no, I'm on board with that. I think I'd still take Mount, me personally, but no, I think Serpent was close second for me very much. What's the mythic uncommon for the set? The uncommon that was just absolutely backbreaking.
Shadow.
Yeah, we missed Shadow.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. My apologies. Yeah, Shadow, Murky Tentacles, 5/2 unblockable that you could get back. Really solid, and it had 5 attacks. So it goes with Spirit Weaver and Might Weaver. John,
You mentioned my pick, which is Spirit Weaver. It's oh man, that's such a good card, and the Plunder was just like, mwah.
Like, yeah, I'm on Spirit Weaver. The fact you could just drop it on a turn, then it changes the dynamic of that game in just one attack step, So it's like I just really like that card.
nice. Yeah. No, good. Solid. Another favorite. They were just so good. So many good uncommons. Oh my god.
Which is like this made me
Yeah.
be like it's a popper set because there's just so many good uncommons,
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, speaking of uncommons, next question. A mythic uncommon set, just we've already talked about it. So Battle Driver is probably the hands down the most mythic one, only because of the fact that it's just so flexible and does so many things. But if you were anywhere remotely in Xenon, Curtain Call is just like you end the game right there the turn you play it.
Mhm.
You block really well, you don't lose anything, you get your opponent's biggest creatures off the board, units off the board. On combat, when you're attacking, oh gosh, it's even worse because then they make some blocks that they think are, Curtain Call just did it all. It did it all. And then you get to do it twice. Then your opponent has to sit there and be like, well, they have the Curtain Call somewhere in the top of their deck. Like, that's great.
Concede button.
Yep. That was so Curtain Call is the mythic uncommon for me. Alex, what about you?
So for me, it was like Prism Golems, but only when I was trying to draft a mono deck. I was always getting those passed to me like multiples when I was like in a 3-color deck already. So those were like so hard for me to get for the mono decks.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then John?
I have the exact same response as you, Jedi.
Sweet. Yeah. Oh god. Curtain Call. So good. I'll miss the that's probably that would probably work for the card I'm not going to miss playing against, but I love playing as well. I'm going to miss drafting. That's probably up there as well. All right, what's the worst card in the set? The biggest blank, the most last picked. All right, well, I went lazy and went with Reflection. John?
Yeah, I said Blade of the Worthy. I think if my memory serves me, this was literally the last card in the most packs for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good call. That's a solid one. I think I actually had it played against me one time.
How big was it?
I think it was a 5/5. They had a Tentaclesis in play.
I feel like I only had one opponent play one against me, and he like I think they played it like just to spite themselves, and it was like either a 0 attack or 1 attack, and it did nothing on the board. They were just like, man, I can't believe I'm playing this card. And they just put it out there anyway and conceded it or whatever.
Yeah, fair enough. And then Alex?
So it was Wandering Beholder. Was my note in here. Do you guys even remember what this card is?
Yeah, I have a premium one because someone passed it to like pick 10.
And yeah, it's like I swear this would be the most common rare I would see as last pick.
Yep.
It's like the one colorless 1/1 that gets all kinds of goodies if you have different colors.
So 1/1 for 1 factionless cultist decay, and then if you have one of each influence, it gets a +2/+2 and overwhelm, so a 3/3 decay. And then if you have 3 of every influence, all 5, it also gains Aegis, double damage, and lifesteal. Yeah,
Not even that good if you get all of that stuff. It's like,
True, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Which card was the most begrudgingly playable? I've already talked about both of these for me. Overheating Minibot and Prize Sal. I did play Prize Sal when I needed some playables. And I was like, I'm the sack deck. I don't have enough sack fodder. Fine, I'll run it. I never did anything really busted like what we talked about earlier. And then Overheating Minibot for all the aforementioned things. The Reckless. John?
I said Roland's Enforcer. Like I think one time I played it on purpose because I was like in the ambush deck, and I just I think it was only really great when like Humbug Nest was 10 times boosted or whatever, and I didn't play it in that format. And any other time it was like I just need some kind of unit in my curve, and it was just so bad every time I played it. So ugh.
Yep, the 1/5 soldier for 5 Shadow has ambush, and then when you play another card on the enemy turn, Roland's Enforcer gets +3 attack.
Not for me.
All right, and then Alex.
For me, Determination Engine.
Oh yeah.
Yep, I caved in and I've played a couple of these because I've definitely lost to it as well. The 6 cost 0/1 engine with no faction, invulnerable to damage on your turn. Summon +1 attack for each influence you have the most of. Yeah, every once in a while my opponent would play this as a 7/1 and I just didn't have a way to deal 1 damage to it. And I'm just like, so that's a card for sure. But yeah, it's yeah. I wasn't a very big fan of playing in my decks, sadly. Is there a card you will miss drafting? For me, Smogwing Tinker. Like, 4/4 flyer that gains you some life with additional weapon synergies. Yeah, the influence was kind of tough sometimes, but I loved being Injustice. I will definitely miss playing Smogwing Tinker. That 4 armor definitely helped you kind of stem the bleeding sometimes if you've had a few too many 6 drops in your deck, because it would kind of balance it out and give you the ability to race sometimes where you didn't have to block with it because you're like, I gained 4 life, so it's fine. So yeah, I'm gonna miss drafting Smogwing Tinker for sure. John?
I love Pogwing Tinker, but I said Pogstone Officer actually.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, right up there. I guess I was looking, I don't know. I guess I tried to change up my answers. Yeah, you're right. Greenstone Officer. Oh, man, I will miss the...
I'm not changing anything. I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. She's up there. And Alex?
And for me, it's Reality Snap. I like that effect. I like that it comes back. It's just,
all right.
I don't know. I love that card.
Yeah. Oh, that card is so good, especially when you snap and then you snap off the top and just get rid of their entire board. And you're like, yeah.
I love it. I love it when I'm a good
revenge player.
Yep, good revenge player.
Yeah, I got good revenge player today. Anywho, what was the Johnniest card of the set? The Jediest and the Darthist card. For me, the Jediest card of the set is probably going to be Unbreakable Tradition. I valued this card quite highly. I mean, I want to just answer Greenstone Officer again, to be honest with you, but I really wanted to try to change up these answers.
I think didn't I answer this for you? I think you answered for me here.
Oh, yeah, maybe that was... Yeah, you're right. That's right.
When I got to it.
Oh, that's what it was. That's right. I wanted you guys to answer for each other. That's right. Okay, so...
This for you. I think that's such a Jedi card. You just smash people with it. I remember you drafting it a lot on stream.
Yeah, I valued it pretty highly. My bad. That's right. I did do that. I filled it out for the other person. That's right. So who filled out for Alex? Was it me or was it you?
I did for me. I didn't know we did that.
Are you sure Corrosive Dagger wasn't already there? I think I might have put that in there.
Oh, did you put that in there? Well, you were.
Yeah, I feel. Yeah, maybe I did. I think I put it in for you too. Yeah, Corrosive Dagger is very Alexy. Yeah, it just, he likes going wide. He likes getting aggressive, and Dagger just does exactly that. He's talked about the mono faction deck a couple of times here, so I think Dagger is definitely the most Darthiest card. And then John, I mean, you already mentioned it. Ancient Serpent. It's a flyer. It's semi-dirty, but really it gets you like a ton of value back. It's like, oh my god,
value.
Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, Ancient Serpent, hands down the Johnniest card in the set.
I agree.
What's
choice.
Jedi's soapboxiest card? I mean, Valleywax Age. There we go. Like,
Yep.
we already talked about it. No big deal there. I already went on the soapbox thing about it earlier. So, number 23. What card do you still have to read when it's cast against you? Any of the From cards for me. Every single one of them, whether they play the front side or the unit side, I'm constantly like, okay, what does this one do again? The only one I think I had to finally stop reading was the Primordial one, just because, oh, I know, you get a 3/1 to wipe my board and you just smash all the few spells I have. Got it. The biggest one I think was the combination of Bryn and Maeve, because they were both Justice ones. So I was like, okay, is this the one that draws you cards or the ones that gets abilities? So those were the ones I had to always read every time they were played against me, especially if they played the actual spell side, because I was like, what does this one do? So, yep. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your answer was great. The From cards.
Okay, and then John?
And Moment of Triumph?
I don't.
You guys even know what that card is?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The bad Cloud of Ash or whatever.
Like Whack of Ash, Cloud of Whack.
Yeah.
Exhaust each enemy unit 4 attack or less, and if you have 2 Justice, then play a Justice Sigil from your deck because you need more.
Yeah. They didn't even bother putting like a decent hero character on the artwork either. It's just a random barbarian or whatever. Yeah, that card was whack. And I'll play a Cloud of Ash.
Here you go.
Yeah, I would play a Cloud of Ash, and this card I definitely would not play.
Question marks.
Yep. From a design/development aspect, how did this set fare? How were the mechanics? What were some of the wins and the losses? I honestly, with variation, like obviously it fluctuated based on the different variations of this format, but I actually put it at a 9 out of 10. I think they did a really neat job with the mechanics, and the draft formats for me were fun. I like the fact that they made a format where mono faction decks were a thing and paid you off significantly for kind of sacrificing the versatility of 2 factions. They made it to where drawing power late was still relevant with surge effects. They made going 2 factions interesting with the heavy influence costs. So you couldn't just run, you could run 2 factions, but you can't run like Smogwing Tinkers and Omen Scar Worms in the same deck because that would punish you. Decay was great. Imbue was solid. Definitely some interesting gameplay with Imbue. And then Plunder, everyone's talked about Plunder. Just the fact that you have a mechanic within your deck to smooth out your draws, pitching away power late game when you don't need it, or turning your 6, 7, 8 drops into power when it's in the early game and you need it, was really great. It led to some interesting gameplay as far as whether you wanted to play this power or hold it, what to imbue. It was just great. I felt like they really did a lot of things with this format that I enjoyed, and I think the only reason why this format is going to have a bad stigma to it is because we had to draft it for so long. So that's me. That's my little spiel. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I think they really hit the ball out of the park with the mechanics. They were all fun to play with. Introducing Plunder is something that's like even now in the next set just very much around. It's like a very great mechanic that helps you smooth through your deck. So just introduction of that for limited is amazing. And then the fact that monofaction decks were viable and something that was actually doable, and that's definitely not normally the case for a limited set. So yeah, well done, Eternal Direwolf.
John?
Yeah, I agree. Probably like 9 out of 10 for me as well. Like I really liked how it felt like if you took the initiative to learn like all the archetypes and everything, you could win with any of them. Like I think there was no like they were all viable, and there's no like clear front runner during any of the rotations, any of the format rotations, right? Like I think so you could say like these 4 or 5 are maybe a little bit more supported right now, but like it kind of rotated, and I don't think anyone was ever just the clear best. And I think the mechanics were mostly fantastic. Imbue and Plunder, I think, were just really, really cool limited. And then Decay is like fine as well. Like I think Decay is starting to really shine now that it's mixed in a draft format with the new mechanic. What is it? Regen. I think that's interesting now. It makes Decay even a little more interesting, having that kind of counterplay. But it was fine. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I think they did a fantastic job. What did this format teach you? How did this format make you better at limited? What are the takeaways? Influence matters in both deck building and in gameplay. Like, once again, I just mentioned it. You, even in a 2-faction deck, sometimes getting 4 influence is difficult. You really want to pay attention to the influence requirements of your units and your spells, as well as the fact that, some of these cards that gave you influence mid-combat made a big difference, or additional things that sometimes just paid off later on. Splashing, right? You could splash 2-faction cards if you had like 2 symbols to give you double influence. I think it really, really made me pay attention to the influence requirements of deck instead of just hitting the auto add and call it a day, as well as running some of the rares that were 1 faction but required a heavy influence of another faction. The From cards, obviously, there was a lot going on here, and I really liked it. And then obviously the play of value, the Plunder, right? Taking suboptimal cards in your deck just to have the Plunder mechanic to help smooth things out was a consideration as well. So yeah, that's my biggest takeaways, is just really paying attention to your influence and power requirements. John, what about you?
Yeah, those are good ones. I something that kind of changed something I kind of do on my game checklist or whatever, like, something I want to do automatically without having to think too much, that I never had to do before really in draft and other draft formats, was sometimes make sure I'm not just dead to something next turn when I'm at like 20 plus health. Normally I'd maybe start thinking about that when I'm like attacking in and leaving myself vulnerable at like the 5 to 10 range, but man, sometimes at this format with certain things on board and like your opponent's like tells in certain ways, like suddenly as the format went on, I would start thinking to myself like, holy crap, if I swing out here even with full 25 life, I'm dead to Might Weaver plus this. And it's like, one time I think I had that thought and then I died to it, and I was like, never again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was definitely some ways to die out of nowhere in this format, for sure. And even offensively, I've done that sometimes where I'm like, wait, do I have to block here? Can we just kill them?
Normally you could like, commit hard to the board while you're building up and like not save up that teleport on turn 4 while you're trying to get all your guys out on board, because normally you're not just going to die to a crack when you're at 25 life. But in this format, sometimes you might want to hold up that teleport in that case.
Yep. All right, and then our final one, favorite card in the format. It's a toss up because these are my like dual combo, and I think one is just the fact that it's Greenstone Officer. Greenstone Officer is my favorite for sure. We've talked about it enough on the show. It's absolutely great. I did throw in an honorable mention with Caravan Guard only because it was common, so we saw it a lot more often. But man, it made you feel good when you had 3 or 4 of them in your deck against aggro. You're like, cool, I'm not gonna get just ran over, and it was a great imbue card. Yeah. So, but yeah, Greenstone Officer, you're my fave. Alex.
So for me, it's Wump and Mizo, and Roland Iron Titan. Just great cards. They're my favorite cards. I mean, I don't get to play them that often, especially Roland. Wump and Mizo a little bit more, but yeah, they're just great cards.
Sweet. And then John?
I mean, Jedi said Greenstone Officer, so I'm gonna go with my like pet card of the format, Boulder Gate Guard. I still love that little guy. I said I loved him before, and we were in the preview format. I was like, man, I like this Boulder Gate card, And then they buffed him. They gave him plunder too. Ah, love that little guy.
Yeah, giving him plunder like sealed the deal for me. That moved him very much into easily playable card for sure. Up until then, I was kind of skeptical, but the plunder definitely pushed it over the top. All right, John, you threw up a wild card question in here. Best voice line of the set. I think anyone that's watched the stream knows mine, and it is the latest Macdo with Revenge.
Yeah, that one's so good. All right, for me, it was Trick Shot Ruffian. Like, even though I got a little sick of him until they nerfed him and nerfed some other cards in that deck, right, for constructed. But yeah, he's got a nice clean one, right? When you play him, you just feel cool, and you're like, yep.
What was his now? I'm drawing a blank.
It's well, you almost just said it. He goes bang.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's right. I knew it was cool. I agree. The way he says it, and when you were describing it, I was like, yes, I do feel that way. You're right. He does. He's like, bang.
You're like, I'm about to play this guy, and he's about to taunt my opponent. You know, it's like it's just one step down from the old Milos voice line, right?
Yeah, true story. Yeah, bootlicker versus bootlicker.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, Alex, do you have one?
I play on mute, so rip.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. That's right. You don't have any. You just know the ones from John, like Be Reborn.
Yeah, I mess with him a lot.
Yeah, I get the better versions when John does it, and he'll be trolling me because I have no idea what he's saying. You know, like what
I'm just randomly saying
he's like,
something.
yeah,
like, what?
That's such and such is freaking what they say when they enter. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I know all the voice lines.
Fair enough. All right, guys, that is going to do it for our Sunset Show. Saying goodbye to the fantastic and super fun Argent Depths, all variations of it. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did as well. And don't give it a bad rep just because we had it for so long. I think we're going to go ahead and skip the what's the play this week. I'll do it. Whatever. It's an easy one. It's pretty much this. All right. So our opponent's at 18. We're at 15. Our opponent has a 0-3 Boulder Gate Guard, a 2-1 Flyer, a 4-4 Flyer, and a 6-4 Overwhelm Flyer. The 0-3 and the 6-4 are able to block, while the 2-1 and the 4-4 are exhausted. We are at 15 with a 3-3 Patroller or 1-3 Patroller, a 2-4 double damage Gunslinger, and a 7-5 Quick Draw Ragnar. We're at 6 power with our hand consisting of a Pillage, a 1-1 Wisp, the draw card one, and a Power. Question here is, once again, they're at 18, we are at 15. They have a total of 12 power on the board right now with the potential of 14 power. My question to you guys is, do you use the Pillage pre-combat to kill the 0-3 to potentially force a block from the 6-5 or the 6-4 Flyer to get it off the board, even if it is a trade? Or do you just play the power A space and see if they block the Patroller with the 6-4 so you can finish it off with the Pillage? Let's send it over to you, John, first. What would you do? Would you pre-combat the Pillage or post-combat?
I mean, neither.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, what's 2-1 again?
I think I don't remember. It has Renown.
Yeah, the Renown is like making me question what card that is. Like,
I really don't remember what it is, to be completely honest with you.
Anyway, so like, I'm thinking, you know, if I try, I don't know, the opponent, I feel like they're gonna want to just value their Flyers and just try and race here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking I want to maybe go like attack in with the 2-4 and the 7-5, and then I assume they just won't block. And if they do block, well, you know, if they chump, they take 4. If they, you know, block with the 6-4, it trades with either of those, right? But I assume they'll want to save their 6-4. And then that means that we can possibly like sneak in for lethal next turn, right? Like they might just swing out, leaving back just the 0/3.
Mm-hmm.
And like pillage goes face as well, right?
Yes.
So yeah, like I think I would just swing out with those 2 units, hold the power, play the 1/1, and pass the turn.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think my reason behind that, and I ended up not doing it pre-combat, but I think my reason for doing it pre-combat, which I didn't do ironically, because I think I left up a similar line to what you said, but I wanted, because we were in a racing scenario, we didn't have anything to answer their flyers. I wanted to either have them take full damage or force the block with their 6/5 or 6/4. And so for me, because what they end up doing is just chump blocking with the Boulder Gate Guard, so saving themselves 7 life is what they end up doing. So my thought process behind taking out the Boulder Gate Guard is taking that chump block off the table, and then they either block losing the dragon or they take 11. You know what I mean? So that was my thought process, but I like your line as well. Potentially is just either they block or they don't, and it doesn't cost you anything, and you still have the pillage for flexibility next turn. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, I like John's line, attacking with the 7/5 and the 2/4. I don't think I used the pillage pre-combat. If you want to A space, you could try to get them to block the 3/3 with the 6/4 flyer if they do that. But I think it's safer just to leave the 1/3 back as a blocker for the ground guys. Play the wisp and just keep the power in your hand. And keep
there are no ground guys though.
The 2/1's flying as well.
Yeah, even that one's flying.
Yeah, all 4 of their units are flying.
It's just like it'll probably just get eaten though. I mean, or like you just get through for that 1 point of damage. Like it's just really not doing anything by attacking, and then you like. I don't really want to trade my pillage for the 6/4 is what I'm thinking. So I don't actually want to. I don't want to make that trade. Like 2-for-1 myself there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I ended up doing. I took Alex's second line where I played the power A-spaced and then hoped to do something with the pillage. And they took, they blocked the 7/5, the Ragnar on their 0/3, and then they took 7 from the other 2 units. And then they cracked back, and I think they had a chump blocker again or something. We ended up losing this game, but that was just something. That was the turn that stood out to me. In like, I think we went 2 more turns before the game was decided or something like that. So I just want to see what y'all's opinion was on it. So, all right, cool. That's what's the play. We are not going to have a constructed corner this week because we're in a brand new format. So pretty much every deck that we would have mentioned today is kind of pointless. So we'll bring it up to you guys. I do want to give
in the works.
Yeah, we're definitely have some spice next week for sure. Maybe actually we probably won't have constructed corner next week either, because next week's gonna be the super long one.
2 weeks in a row of set reviews. So
yeah, so I do want to give a quick. Well, yeah, while we're on that, yep. So the 2 following shows are going to be our commons and uncommon set review, where we're going to go through literally every card in the set, telling you our rank and rating and thoughts behind them in a limited environment. So be on the lookout for those. Those are typically our longer shows, but we will try to power through it as quickly as we can for you guys. We've gotten better about that. So we won't have anything other than our pack one pick ones for those shows, just to kind of keep them under a reasonable time frame. And then that's it. I do want to give a shout out to IP Longno, fellow teammate of Team EternalJourney. They did pick up a spoiler for the current set, Empire of Glass, but because of scheduling things, we decided for them to just spoil it on their own. That way, the community doesn't wait. So we didn't get to spoil it on this show, but once again, do want to give them a shout out for doing that. Very, very generous of them. And then, of course, mentioning the twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ, where you can catch us every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, hanging out there, playing some limited and a little bit of constructed. And if not, you can catch the video version of this show as well as other great videos, both limited and constructed, on youtube.com/EternalJourney. But all right, guys, that is going to do it for us. If you do want to hang out with us offline and chit chat with us and get some questions and help with Eternal, definitely check out the Discord. We have a phenomenal Discord community going on with people all willing to help you brew, make draft picks, and just all around help you play or just chit chat about your day. So thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, as always, happy gaming.
Good night.
Good luck in your draft queues, everyone.